Where on earth is the Super Saiyan 3 Goku EZA and the movie Boss's Red Zone? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are taking a look at the Super Saiyan 3 Goku's EZA over here on the local Dokkan, and checking the in-game news and trying to figure out what the heck happened, as he was not announced in the in-game news, along with some other very important events that are not part of the celebration that were on JP. So we're going to take a look and try to figure out when we should be able to expect these. So first off, let's hop over to the in-game news for the Explosive Power Decisive Punch campaign. This is the Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Hirudegarn campaign. We look through here and, we see all the typical makings that we would normally see, right? We see the packs, we see the Dokkan Fest, we see the Dokkan events for the new ones, we see the new Clash, a new burst mode, a return of an EZA, some new events, and then we scroll down, we get new Super Battle Roads, Dragon Ball stories, right? Everything seems in order until we realize there's no EZA or chain battle here, right? Which should be there, right? Because, right, we already know, we've had this campaign on JP already. There was an EZA for the LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. There was a new stage of a red zone. And there was also, where is it? Let's see if we can find it. We might have scrolled past it. Right here. There was also the last chain battle over on JP, and we know this is coming. The producer letter told us that this is the month where we would have the last chain battle. So what gives? None of this stuff was announced. Global doesn't typically hide EZAs when it comes to in-game news, so let's try to figure out when this should happen. So I think one of the easiest indicators, right, we just assume that, okay, well, it wasn't in part 1, then it must be in part 2. Well, when is that? Fortunately for us, we kind of have an idea of when everything is going down. We know that on Sunday the 7th, we're getting this new EZA area. Shortly thereafter, on Monday, we'll get the new Dragon Ball story, and then we'll get these guys as well 3 days later on the 11th. Shortly after that, or before that rather, on the 8th, we will go into server maintenance mode. The game will go down for a couple of hours. This is what I assume to fix or add in. It's not a, it's not a big game update, right? Like we would normally get. It's just a standard routine maintenance, which they usually do before like world tournaments, or usually when there's a part 2 or something coming up. So they could be adding part 2 LR information if there's some kind of campaign banner that they want to add into there. Who knows what it's going to be? It could be like a filler banner or something, but this is happening on the 8th. So my assumption is that when we come out of maintenance on the 8th, we should see the announcement for the Super Saiyan 3 Goku in much the way that it was now added to the news on JP Dokkan when it happened. Now, the JP Dokkan campaign began on, I'll find the original start date of the campaign. So the Dokkan Fest banners released on the 28th. And then Super Saiyan 3 Goku's EZA released on the 11th. So roughly, what is that? Roughly 14 days later. So if we take a look here at the global campaign, this campaign began on the 31st. So we can safely assume that if all goes according to that same schedule, roughly 14 days, we know that the last event listed here starts on the 11th in the part 1 campaign. So 14 days from the start puts us at the 15th. So Monday, April 15th is when we're looking at possibly seeing the start. Possibly a day earlier on the 14th. So Sunday the 14th or the 15th on Monday could be the drop date for this EZA, and the start of whatever is going to be part 2. I do think this is kind of a weird thing to happen, because if this is the case, that makes this the first campaign in a very long time that doesn't have an EZA in their part 1. I don't think we've ever had that, at least not since I've been playing the game. So this is really interesting, but it's the only explanation I can come up with, that, you know, when part 2 kicks off, that's when we'll see the EZA, because the last thing for us comes here on the 11th, and then we've got nothing. So my guess is the maintenance is going to drop whatever's coming next for part 2, and then sometime between the 11th and the 15th, we should see the in-game news and the launch of the part 2 campaign. But that's not all, right? We're still missing 2 things. We're missing the final chain battle, as well as the movie bosses red zone. So let's talk about the movie bosses red zone. So the first stage of the movie bosses red zone on JP did not drop until did drop on the beginning of the celebration. The second stage is dropped around 11 days later, when, you know, all of our secondary stuff is happening, right? These things here, the stories, the ESBRs, the EZA for the type support banners. So really strange that this is waiting. This could be something that they're waiting till after the maintenance to announce and add. Could be what they're adding through the maintenance, the tickets and the stages and all that. They could be adding all of that through the maintenance, and then also adding all of the whatever they need to close out the last chain battle. That could be why these things are not announced. I know a lot of people are saying that well, it's because this was part of the lead up to the anniversary campaign, but I don't think that that's really true, especially given the start date. If this was part of the lead up to the anniversary campaign, the first stage would have dropped so much later, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but it just seems really odd to have dropped it back in December if it was part of the lead up to anniversary, instead of just dropping it during the countdown campaign and releasing the stages over the time. Maybe they just didn't think they had enough time, but that's still a pretty huge gap between this and February. So, I mean, I'm inclined to believe that this is probably coming in the part 2 campaign. Otherwise, Global really doesn't have a whole lot going on for the rest of the month. Even if they introduce a new unit or fast forward a Dokkan Fest unit, I mean, we're basically at a loss for content if we don't get anything besides chain battle after that maintenance. So my thought is that this and the chain battle are going to be coming after the maintenance or into whatever the part 2 campaign is. It's the only thing I can think of that would make sense for them to just completely leave these things out of the news, and basically give us nothing for part 1, right? I mean, pretty much all we had was these 2 things right here: Ultimate Clash, the Dokkan event, and this event here, until 2 days from now on the 7th. That there wasn't a whole lot to do here once you summoned 4 Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Hirudegarn. So hopefully part 2 rectifies that, and we see the EZA as well as the last chain battle and the movie bosses 2 red zone. So guys, that is it for our video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let me know, what do you think? Are we going to be seeing the EZA before or after part 2 starts? I'm leaning towards right after the maintenance is when this guy will drop. Otherwise, it's a part 2 EZA, which to me is still really, really weird. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.